Hey everyone, welcome to More Than Mises Guys. This is a show where we go through the old G.I. Joe or G.I. Joe. Oh my, sorry. Looking at Mike's shirt here. The old Transformers episodes one by one to see how they hold up or if they're trapped in nostalgia. We look at all things in the episodes, whether there were real world factors that crept into it or if it was typical afternoon cartoon fodder. And today we have a special guest with us, Mike Charles Hill, who is the writer of Starscream's Brigade. He's been a friend of the show. He's been on here before. And pleased to have him once again. So yeah, if you want to, you'd like to say anything to start this out. Highly scripted show, by the way, everybody.
Right. Well, once again, thanks for having me back on. And the last time, or the first time, did we do another Transformers, or was that something else?
We interviewed you, and I think we were talking. We did Cold Slither. We know we did that. Ed, you and I did that alone, right?
Yeah, we
We
know
did. Yes,
we did Cold Slither as a side episode, and then
that's
Okay.
we
right.
had
That's
you
right.
on. We just kind of I think we just kind of interviewed you and just talked about
Mm.
like how you got into the industry, and just you told us some good war stories and some cool stuff. But I want to say first of all, thanks so much for being so generous with your time. That's a real rare treat in entertainment. So thanks so much for hanging out with us. And but I also want to say though that I don't know if this is just like one of those things. You know, when you buy a car, you buy a new car, right? And you see that car everywhere. Like you buy
Mhm.
I bought a Jetta, and then I was like, man, there's so many Jettas out
Yeah.
there. But but once you came on our show, like I don't know if it's because of that or if it's just because I look out for you now, but you're like everywhere now. Like I see you, you're at conventions and you're on other shows. You're doing all kinds of stuff now. So I'm gonna take some credit for bringing
Oh,
you.
by all means. Yeah, it does seem to have a snowball effect, and I will admit that after doing my first convention, I felt the need, in spite of how uncomfortable it was, to do a little self promotion. So there was more stuff going on, on my Facebook page where I mostly was just a lurker. Um, so it more people were able to find me.
Definitely. I
Nice.
I see so many convention pictures nowadays with you always wearing your hat also. I like right, right, I see he's wearing the same hat as a guy in this episode, by the way. If you don't know if you noticed, a reporter wearing that
uh,
Mike Hill hat.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So no, that's rather convenient.
Marty Minkler.
Marty
Marty
Minkler.
Minkler.
Marty
Yeah.
Minkler.
Great
Yes.
reporter
Who?
name.
Some good
Well,
Stan Lee alliteration there.
he when I used to do the supervise the sound mixing in post production, I worked with three members of the Minkler family who are very well known as sound mixers for generations in the film business. So it was kind of a homage to them.
I mean,
Nice.
just like Geiken was an homage to Gary Gygax
Right.
and oh, why I'm blinking on the other name here.
David Marconi.
Dave Marconi, thank you.
Right.
By the way, they've hinted that they're bringing Lord Geiken into the new Energon Universe comics.
Well, he has made an appearance in Void Rivals, yeah,
Yes,
along
Yeah.
with Slizzardo and Bosch, the space
yes,
pirate.
yes, yeah. They made a big deal of the fact he's coming. What is he? He's coming back in the Transformers universe, part of the comic. So and it's
Oh,
all the same
cool.
universe, but they're bringing him into that. So yeah, it's really
Great.
nice to see your old characters continuing to live on after all these years.
Um, yeah, I've never had a conversation with Robert Kirkman, so obviously he's a fan, and so I definitely appreciate that. Now I'm
Okay,
just waiting for DevCon to show up.
that would be fantastic. I mean, obviously Kirkman's a fan of this show. I mean, we obviously, but well, yeah, it's nice to see that I don't know, cross pollination with the good memories. It's evident that Kirkman is a fan of season 2 and definitely season 3 of Transformers, the Sunbow show, because the things he brings in the Void Rivals and the Transformers show itself. So I can imagine this is going to be a nice bleed over of those ideas, and look forward to seeing that.
Nice. Jason, didn't you meet Robert Kirkman at a convention or something like that a while back? Didn't you read?
Me?
Or was that some? Or am I getting you mixed up with somebody else?
Yeah, no, it's not me, man.
I thought one of you guys met Robert
Did
Kirkman.
you?
Nope.
You?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe not. Maybe I
I
don't.
mean,
All right, never mind. My bad.
he's from Kentucky, so I can claim some kinship to him, probably. Beyond that, I don't know.
I didn't know he was from Kentucky.
Oh, and Mike, this is Jehu. He's been work with us on some of these season 2 episodes. I keep asking him, "You want to come back?" He says, "Yeah, I want to come back and do more of that." So it's been a hard bargain.
Yeah, I've started to feel like Heather Locklear on Melrose Place. Like I'm always here, but I'm still special guest star.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like now we have like three like aspects of fandom now. We have like Evan, who's like the lifelong fan, who like you've been a fan since I've known you, which has been like since the mid to late 90s. Like there's me who knows nothing about Transformers, and there's Jason who like was a fan as a kid, and I think you kind of dipped out, and then recently you're kind of back into it with a vengeance. Though
That's 100% true. I was super into it as a kid, just completely lost touch with it, and then in the last couple of years, I've gotten super into it again.
Sort of like the three fates from the three witches.
I see someone here never lost the faith, but others. Well, we are talking about a fantastic episode. One of my favorites from season 2, actually, today. Starscream's Brigade. When I looked at this, I said, "Oh, that's one I wanted to talk to Mike about being on the show again." So I was really, excited that you agreed to come on with us.
Sure.
Yeah, as we approach the end of season 2, and yeah, that's all converging onto one of my favorite movies as a kid and an adult to watch still. So this is fantastic. And I mean, honestly, I think we all have a few questions for during about the episode. So I don't know if you guys want to get right into it, or if you want to, go over some of this as we.
Well,
maybe we just go over the episode and then get to the questions when we get to them if they're things in it to queue
I mean,
them up.
We can hit some scenes, and then then Mike, if you want to elaborate, or I'm sure we'll have a million questions for you as we get to it. So yeah.
And I love we started this in Guadalcanal in 1943.
Guadalcanal, 1943, yeah. This is cool. We get some cool combat footage, and I'm the resident like airplane and military nerd here, and actually everything was actually pretty accurate. And even if it wasn't, I wasn't going to nitpick it anyway because it's a pre-internet cartoon. But Mike, do you have any interest in military history, or do you have because this was all pretty like a lot of the tanks and planes and stuff were, I mean, fairly accurate to that period and whatnot, and the date and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, and as a kid, well, even still as an adult, I've been a big fan of World War II movies. So the story behind this opening is another homage, and this time to John Milius, the screenwriter director.
Yeah.
So about a year or so before Flint Dilley and I became friends, and a few years before we ended up working at Sunbow, we were both in a I can't remember if it was a seminar or a screenwriting class with John Milius. And what I remember most about that that class or seminar, I can't remember if it was multiple weeks or just one night, was he talked mostly about Conan the Barbarian because he had just finished directing it. I don't think it had been released yet.
Right on.
And he talked about Apocalypse Now. But at some point during this session or sessions, he was talking about how screenwriters are very secretive with their projects. And they don't want to share the idea with anybody. And his attitude was that the story ideas aren't shit. And he said, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to start writing a screenplay about the Battle of Guadalcanal. And you can all go home and write your scripts about the Battle of Guadalcanal, and mine will still be better. Now, it was a great story, something I never forgot. And so this was my little homage to John Milius. And I had to work backwards because Hasbro had already decided what the Combaticon characters were and what their alt mode was. But using World War II vehicles on both sides seems like at the time was an easy thing to do.
So John Milius famously was the inspiration for the character Walter in The Big Lebowski, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And so is that what he was like in real life? Was he?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome. That's and it's of Conan the Barbarian, though. I don't know if you've ever listened to it or watched it, but the director's commentary on that movie is him and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it is the absolute best commentary on any DVD I've ever watched in my life, because it's John Milius was really serious about like the symbolism and all the multi layers that he thought that he was putting in that movie. Like, he was going on about how in this scene I'm demonstrating the strength of the bond between the father and son, and the riddle of steel symbolizes this. And Schwarzenegger was, I don't know if he was just like high or what, but he would just go, yeah, I remember. It was every scene was that, and it was so funny. And as a matter of fact, if I still own that DVD, I think tonight I'm gonna have to dig that out and watch that.
I'm gonna have to dig mine out now to watch it.
Yeah.
I've seen the movies numerous times. I saw it on opening night on Hollywood Boulevard, but I've never listened to the commentary. But I also remember another thing. He summed up the theme of that movie in one line, and that was, revenge is something you can believe in.
All right.
Yeah, succinct.
Yeah.
And that actually plays into this episode really nicely.
It does.
It does, yes.
Yeah. Speaking of revenge, Starscream has like a Jan Brady moment here, and he is mad about Shockwave. This was great. I really like this, and he just falls off and blasts Megatron. And this is what I have been waiting for this entire series. I've been waiting because they've been dropping. There's been hints of it and all this, and it just comes to a head, and he just blows them away. And the rest of the Decepticons are stunned. This is great.
Yeah. Well, I think that was part of my inspiration too, is we had so many episodes prior to this where Starscream feels like he should be the leader, but he never really did anything about it. He was all mouth. So I thought, well, let's see what happens when he tries.
Yeah, and I love noting this. This is only 2 minutes and 13 seconds of the episode we have him claiming leadership. It might be a new record.
Well, I also love that what sets him off is basically everybody loves Shockwave.
Yeah.
About that.
He's like, basically in this, Shockwave is Raymond and Starscream is Robert, except Starscream's not super tall.
Deep cut, buddy. Deep cut.
I have a theory that all personality types are a character from Everybody Loves Raymond, but we won't get off on that. We have other things to do.
Everybody doesn't love Raymond is the thing, and I'm one of them. So,
Ed, we're gonna have to talk about this separately. You're looking at it wrong. You're looking at that show. You think it's just a sitcom about family when it's about the existential misery of connection.
Wow.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it offline.
Separate from this.
But one of the great things here is Starscream goes, okay, I order you all to help me. And there's this trio. There's Starscream orders Astro Train, Soundwave, and Thruster just sitting over there like, no.
Don't care.
No, we're not doing that.
They don't care.
Even S-Train's like posing with his hands on his hips, like, no, buddy. It's not happening.
So good.
So
Yeah. So they banish him, and but
mhm.
the way they banish him is that Laserbeak picks him up and drops him on an island. Just drops him on an which is obviously is Guadalcanal. I mean, instantly you're like, oh, this is
Right.
all back to the initial thing there. But I thought it was cool because like the adult brain me was like, they could just transform into a jet and fly away. But then I'm like, oh well, no, this would be a lot cooler if he dug up some cool old military stuff.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, this
Bill,
was cool.
yeah, he trips over a wing within like 2 seconds of being on the island, so it's very convenient.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was like a zero, like a Japanese, like a zero wing, I think, or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was.
It had the rising sun or the sun.
Yes, yes, on the wing. So yeah, he pulls out the body of the prop plane, and he's like, "All right, well, I guess I gotta do something with this now." And the next scene has him, bullying his way past Thundercracker and Skywarp to use a space bridge. Like, Brigade says no one can use a space bridge without permission, and he doesn't even try hard to get past him. He just does.
He calls them microchip morons, which is
Yeah.
great. Like I'm on record loving the Transformers insults. This is really good.
There's
But
solid ones through this whole episode.
there are, but he pulls the Han Solo like where's your authorization? And he just pulls out his blaster and he's like, "This is my authorization." It's right
So
at the
yeah,
of the
this
trash compactor scene in Star Wars. That was cool.
well, there's something about this though. I mean, rumor has it, and you may be able to help on this one, Mike, that they asked Chris Latta as to kind of ad lib a lot of his insults from Starscream in this episode. Is there anything to that?
Ooh, could very well be. I'm sure I was sitting in on the recording session, but I did so many of those, I don't remember at all.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah, though the same kind of insults are in other episodes, so I could see it being part of the writing, but that's a little rumor out there. So I just had to ask. But yeah,
I'll have to double check the script.
yeah, and so he gets on the Cybertron through the space bridge and just goes and finds this room with looks like a filing cabinet.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Totally, it's like a
Hold
fun-
on.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Yes.
I got a big question here. So he goes into room 217. Mike, please tell me that's a Shining reference. That was
It absolutely is.
Knew it. Knew it.
But the novel, not the movie.
Yes.
Okay, and that was my next question because that was an era when you couldn't just watch movies 14 times a day, and so I assumed that probably would have been a reference to the novel. Are you a big fan of that novel? Just out of curiosity.
You know what? It's been so long since I read it, but I loved the movie, and immediately afterwards, I wanted to read the book.
Okay.
So that was, I guess, still floating around in my head when I was
Okay.
writing this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the movie The Shining. I love the movie The Shining. The book also. It's the Kubrick movie. I don't really like any subsequent version, but it's one of those cases where it's a terrible adaptation of the book, but it's a great movie. So
Right, it's a good its own thing, even though it's
Something,
about
yeah.
that thing.
That is actually a movie where I first understood the term chewing the scenery with Jack Nicholson. Like, oh, that's what that means. Because he does. Every scene he's in, it doesn't matter what's around him. He owns the center of the tension there. So that's one of the things I always love about the Shining. It's one of my favorite movies. We'll watch it very regularly in this house.
Hey, and both that and this episode features Scatman Crothers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another
wow,
connection.
very briefly in this one though. It's
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
he does the most with his scene.
He does.
I mean, it's Scatman Crothers.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta. He chews the scenery a lot of times.
Right.
Yeah.
Mike, did you ever get to meet Scatman? Did you ever get to hang out?
Oh
with him?
yeah. He Wally Burr had a very small green room, but it really wasn't a room. It was just kind of the landing at the top of the stairs. And so before we'd start recording sessions, we're all kind of crammed in there, sitting on a couch or, chairs, all packed in like sardines. And, Scatman was always there. And sometimes he'd bring his ukulele and he'd play little songs and sing along. And it was great.
Man.
Cool. That's awesome.
I got to admit though, like, being in the business that you've been in for so long, I just can't imagine the amount of people you were able to meet just by happenstance or by the fact that y'all are working together on a project. To think, meeting Scatman Carruthers, obviously before his passing, I just, it was one of the favorite parts of The Shining, obviously, because he's fantastic in it. So I'm extremely jealous, but I'm glad you got to meet him for sure.
Yeah, he was great.
Wonderful.
Were those recording sessions always like everybody in person, or were there people that I don't know if the logistics of it were there people that like recorded it remotely and sent their stuff in, or was it all in the
No,
same studio?
um, pretty much everybody, the entire cast would be in the same room together. And when I started doing these sessions, in the morning we would do a table read, and Wally would be at the head of the table, and he had already read the script, so he would be explaining every scene to the actors and what their characters were experiencing, or what their motivation was, or what their reaction to something would be. And then we'd break for lunch and we'd come back in the afternoon and record it. Eventually, because that took all day, and a number of actors like Frank Welker were always double booked, eventually we just came in and did we skipped the table read. And at some point, there were some actors who, they go through their sides, which just would list their character's name and their dialogue. And they'd go down and see how many lines they had. And they say, "Oh, Wally, I only got 6 lines. Can you record me first? Because I got to go over the hill and do another session, in a couple hours." The only person that we ever who literally phoned it in was Sergeant Slaughter on G.I. Joe, because he lived in Connecticut,
Right.
and he was busy on the wrestling circuit. So literally a day after whatever episode that we had recorded with the entire cast, I would go back to Wally's studio, and we would literally call Sergeant Slaughter on the telephone, and he would record his dialogue. And I'm amazed that all those years ago, the technology was good enough that you can't tell when you're watching an episode
Right.
that he's not in the same room with the other actors.
That's fantastic. Being that that Ed and Jason here are both wrestling fans, so I mean, I
Yeah.
knew of them wrestling also in the '80s. You couldn't get away from wrestling in the '80s, but they're still longtime wrestling fans. So, and Jay, you also being a soap opera fan, I guess it all plays in together.
That's true.
But no, so we'll get back to the episode. He shoots his way into drawer 217 and pulls the thing out. And then, considering what this is, he shoots everything else and destroys the room. So
Cold-blooded.
he kills everyone else that isn't attention here. We find out later what this is.
Just an offhanded act of mass murder. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he just decides on the moment, I'm just going to kill all these guys.
Yep.
He does it, man. This is what he's been building up to. This is his life's work here. This is magnum opus.
Well, yeah, so far. Yeah, and so he takes them all back, all these energy modules back to the island where there's of course we have the prop plane, Japanese prop plane. We have a tank, we have a jeep, we have a bomber of some sort. It's purple bomber. No, I'm not. You would maybe know better than me, Ed. And then we also
it was I think a B-17, yeah, or a B-25, but probably a B-17.
And then you have a half track. And he puts a little cube of it. Looks like cube of energon. Apparently, that's the personalities, and makes them all transform. And before they transform into robots, they all change their modes to the toys, which I always thought was a little disappointing. I would have loved to have the prop plane. I would have loved to have the bomber as part of this, but we have to sell a space shuttle. And
yes, and I know that is a common critique, but how this came about is I had to back into it because Hasbro had already decided what these characters would be in their alt modes. So I had to work with that,
Yeah.
uh,
And actually, that's a
going
brilliant way to do it.
backwards.
Yeah, just to go and say, here's what you have to have eventually. At least you got your chance to put your own stamp on it with the actual more, the older models there on the beach for
Right.
a
And
bit of
and
time.
and and that was sort of another impetus for writing the episode. Because as a producer of the show, Hasbro would send me faxes of all new characters and vehicles for both G.I. Joe and Transformers that they would tell me, okay, these are gonna hit the toy shelves by a certain date. Please start introducing these into the episodes so that they will air close to the time that they'll be available to purchase. So when my memory is uh, there were multiple combiners on this fax, and when I went down the list, the Combaticons and Bruticus were most interesting to me, and I thought, well, I'll be the first to write their story, and I'm going to want to do an origin story.
Fantastic, they're my favorite combiner team, so that was fantastic, and it's probably more the writing of their personalities. And so with that, I mean, did Hasbro give you this is what their personality has to be like? Fill in the blanks yourself, or did you get to produce that?
Um, Typically, and I don't think that this would have been even any different. There'd be a brief bio and maybe a sample dialogue, and chances are it was Bob Budiansky who came up with it because he did most of the others.
Okay.
Um, because when I was watching the episode earlier to be, prep for this, I was thinking the same thing. It's like, yeah, whose idea was it for this character to sound like this? Um, and it wouldn't have been mine. So I think Hasbro had already laid the foundation for that, and I just ran with it.
Okay. I was kind of curious about that because we always kind of hope that when we see a character, we the Budiansky write-ups are fantastic. He just killed it on all of the write-ups for the tech specs. So I was kind of wondering how much of that spin you got to put on to yourself. Sounds like you got to flesh it out a bit yourself also, which is nice. So
Yeah, because it definitely there was no origin story for them whatsoever.
that's
That was
that's
all mine.
that's fantastic. And speaking to your friend Buzz Dixon also, it's nice to see you guys actually be able to put your own mark on these things. And it really came out well, I think. But anyways, we'll get back to the episode. Yeah, and so I went over the whole thing with like the space shuttle turned from the bomber, and obviously you have to sell those toys, but let's gloss over that because it wasn't a choice at all. It was what you had to back into, as you say.
Yeah.
But Starscream, they all kind of gang up on him immediately, like why should we follow you? And all their personalities come out instantly. And Onslaught and Swindle, I think, are the stars of this team. Onslaught, the tactician, Swindle, the con man. So they're all kind of figure out ways they can take out Starscream and do everything that what they want to do. And there's a little talk of like, oh, why am I in this junk body? All that sort of stuff is fantastic for the personalities, but Starscream has a little trump card on there. I mean, he hasn't equipped him with energy absorbers. First time we hear anything about this. One of those new things we have in the show, which becomes part of the lore. And I always like that he has a contingency plan built into this, and it's right on cue for Starscream. Um, you know, when you were trying to give an idea for Starscream and how he's going to control these guys, I don't know if you remember or not. What were like the ideas? Energy absorbers, just anything they could hold over on them.
I mean, that was definitely baked into my story,
Hmm.
and I kind of remember struggling with coming up with the right name for it. And when I hit upon Edhatestransformers, it was like, okay, move on. Just
Fair enough.
It works.
So,
Those were all you. That was all you, and that wasn't like something that was already like established or like in like a series Bible or anything like that.
Uh, I don't. Yeah, I think it was all me. I don't recall that being something that was part of the Bible or referenced in any other episodes before. But somebody far more knowledgeable in the series than me could confirm that.
I like that you say that, but you're like one of the like main creators of the series. You've heard other people to know it more.
You're the first one.
Oh.
I can tell you, you're the first one to bring it in. So
Oh,
it helps.
okay, all right.
So
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the last 2 years since I've been doing these podcasts and conventions, I'm just in awe. I mean, pretty much every fan knows more about the show than I do, even though I was there.
yeah, like you talked to Buzz also to back this up. This is your job. You're trying to get as many of these things written as you could, and I'm sure you became invested because obviously you put a lot of what you put a lot of your own interest in yourself into these episodes and these writing these out. But at the end of the day, you did so many of these that I'm sure you lost track of a lot of the stuff. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was funny like talking to you about Cold Slither because I don't think you realized how much the fans adored this sort of stuff. Because you were off social media for years. You came back on
Oh,
and
yeah.
realized, like, oh my God,
Yeah.
remember me?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, with Cold Slither, I was convinced that it would be everyone's least favorite episode for years. And so, I still can't wrap my head around how popular it became, and now Hasbro cashing in on it this summer.
Yeah,
There's so much cold Southern stuff that I've seen like in the last like few months. There's like because when you were on the show the first time, I just kind of I was kidding around. I was like, oh, it'd be great. I should cover this song. It'd be a fun metal song to cover. And then and now there's like somebody pressed a vinyl record of a band covering it,
Yeah.
and it's like
Yeah.
there's
And they're
action figures and T-shirts, and this is great. This is what a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, and they're doing a Cold Slither concert down in San Diego. I guess the night before the album drops.
right on.
Okay.
The album
Wow.
drops on Friday the 25th and Thursday the 24th. They're doing a Cold Slither concert.
that's really cool.
That's awesome.
And I'll say honestly, this is just plays into this. I made a compilation, like I took some clips from episode The God Gambit or God's Gambit and put it to Cold Slither. And that is my most viewed video because people love Cold Slither. They look for Cold Slither, and it just happened to be that it was involving Transformers. It was a whole thing, and it is by far the most viewed thing I've done. Period.
Wow.
Story. It's huge. It's great to see it too. It's great to see people acknowledging what you did. You almost forgot about. I'm sure, just as a note along the way. So I love that you thought people were going to hate it. This is my least favorite. It's a fun episode. That's the main thing. Like with all of these, if it's a fun episode, whether it changes something or reveals something huge, as long as people remember it because it's fun, that's 90% of it, and that's why I love this one so much. But
So I've actually had a question about the inspiration of this episode since I watched it as a kid. And it's funny because going into researching my question today, I've found out that basically I'm sure the answer is no. But since I've had it in my head for so long, I still feel like I need to ask it.
Okay.
So one of the first like tropes I noticed as a kid, and when of course I didn't know that word then, just one of those things that I noticed that various shows did. Because before shows became like they are now, where they tell ongoing narratives, like the shows would kind of all do these episodes. There would be like a cave-in episode or a hostage episode or a mistaken identity episode, and they would kind of be like almost how you would judge shows about against each other. The Big Valley does a better hostage show than Gunsmoke. You know, Andy Griffin did a better cave-in episode than like The Rifleman, that sort of thing. So one of the ones I noticed as a kid that I really liked was the idea of some character from a show gets marooned somewhere, and when they get there, there is a soldier there that doesn't know that a war is over.
Mm.
And I thought I remembered like every show would do that episode, right? And you know, as an adult, I found out that was based on Hiro Onada, I think. He was the Japanese soldier in
Yep.
the 60s who didn't
He never
surrender till the 60s.
surrendered. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he was hiding out in a cave for
right,
a number of
right.
years. Yeah.
And I remember even in the oddies there was an episode of Archer that was sort of about that trope, which like led me to believe I was right. There were so many shows that did this episode. So when I was going to ask about this today, I did a bunch of research and I could only find 2 episodes that fit this bill. An episode of Gilligan's Island, which of course makes sense. They've already got the marooned part done. And an episode of a show that I don't even remember called Salvage One, starring Andy Griffin. And I started like searching shows that I thought I remembered an episode of that there wasn't. Magnum, no. Airwolf, no. Like all these shows. So maybe I just imagined this trope, but I still wanted to ask, was this in any way? Because I felt like this was like that you found a way to put those 2 elements together. You find this remnants of the war on the island, and you also find a way to put these minds in them that are, you know, sort of from out of time. They don't really know what's going on right now. So basically, was there any way there was any inspiration from the Hiro Nada story in this?
Well, certainly not consciously.
Okay,
but
I figured as much.
But I certainly wouldn't deny the fact that a lot of the episodes that I wrote were inspired by other things I had seen or read that were just kind of stuck somewhere in here that I could pull the string on and use.
I think there was a Twilight Zone or an Outer Limits that had something like that. I think, and I think there was one kind of like that with Walter Koenig. I think where he was like a it's like a time displaced Japanese soldier, and they ended up. All I remember about it is him attacking a guy in his attic with a samurai sword. That was literally the only thing I remember about it.
Well, so. Also, there's kind of a Hawaii 5 episode of it, but it's more like a Manchurian Candidate kind of thing.
I always kind of put these as the Lost Roman Legion, you know, kind of things where, you know, they show up and, you know, they're out of time. Like you said, they've been wandering and they come across the Lost Roman Legion. That's kind of how I see it. But I think yours were actually worse more to maybe, you know, where Mike, you could have gotten sort of inspiration without even realizing you're getting inspiration. That actually makes a lot of sense. Hey everyone, we're going to cut it here for this week. I just wanted to let you know we're going to split this in 2 parts because it's an hour and 20 minutes. It's kind of pushing limits where we want to go these days, but luckily it's a blast. So please check out next week. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, write us an email. But I want to thank Michael Charles Hill, writer of a lot of my favorite childhood things and still favorite things as an adult, weirdly enough. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jehu, and thank you, Ed. And we will see you next week for the second part of Starscream's Brigade. Thank you very much. Bye.